Alright guys, here I am with episode 10, episode X. So we're gonna have a couple quick fixes just to start off with. By the way, the topic of this episode is missiles and the missile launcher, uh, which is exciting, but the first thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna actually put the hazards on another layer, because I realized that in the game, when the player shoots hazards, the bullets just go through them. So we're going to want to put hazards on a whole different layer, and we're still going to let the player collide with hazards, so collision mask hazards, but projectiles and stuff won't collide with hazards. So that should be good. We can test it out really quickly, just to make sure that it's working. So if we go up here, and shoot, then it goes right through the hazard. Okay, sweet. That's good enough for that. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a prefab for the missile. And we're going to call it missile, right? Give it a sprite renderer. And for the sprite, we're going to choose bullet_0, which is this one right here. Let me move it one up just so we can see it a little better. And we're going to want to make sure that this is on player projectiles. We should actually set that under project settings and physics 2D. Yeah, okay, we should fix some of these. So we only want player projectiles to collide with enemy. And hazards should only collide with the player. I think if you uncheck some of these boxes, I mean, theoretically it should speed up the process a bit, right? Actually, for now, that's that's good. I don't want to mess around with this too much. But yeah, make sure that player projectiles only collides with enemies. The main thing is we don't want it to be able to collide with itself. Okay. So now what we're going to do is, now that we have our missile, what we can do is we can make a quick prefab for it. So we'll make a folder, missiles, put it under, name it missile _01, and then we can just drag it in. Right now it's kind of empty, it doesn't have anything, but we can just hit apply on the prefab once we put everything in on it. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to create an explosion prefab. So let me move that up here so we can see it a little better. And we'll call it explosion particles. So the explosions in Cave Story have two parts. They have like these big circular flashes and then little smoke puffs that come out of it. So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to go to textures and actually locate those locate the sprites that we're gonna use. So first, the big light flashes are gonna be these two things over here. So those are _0 and _1, which is great. So that's the first thing we're gonna do. We're gonna give it a particle system. Make sure that the renderer is, make sure the material here is sprites default. And then we're gonna go to texture sheet animation, change it from grid to sprites. This stuff is pretty basic. I'm pretty sure we've done it before. Make sure 1 and then 0, because we want it to flash and then not flash. So right now it looks kind of weird. First off, these are kind of small, so let's make it 2. We want the pixels to line up, right? Yeah, that looks like it's about the right size. Then we're going to want to make the duration way down, maybe 0.5, make it not loop. Actually, let's set it to loop for now so that we can see it go. Lifetime should be like 0.1. And the emission should be, instead of 10, we're going to set it to 0 and make it a burst of 1 and, for 4 cycles. And set the interval to like 0.1 or 0.05. Yeah, that looks like a Cave Story burst. Make sure that the start speed is 0, because I don't have a start speed. And we'll make sure that the shape is a circle of radius 2. maybe 1.5. That's good. That looks good to me. Let's move that down a bit so you can see it like over here. Yeah, that looks like the first part, right? And then under this, so actually let me change the duration to a little bit longer because the smoke puffs are gonna last longer. Let's make the duration like 5. And under this, we're gonna add particle system, call it smoke puffs. And the smoke puffs, weirdly enough, are under NPC. I think NPC sim, they should be here. And here they are. Okay, so we're gonna, these aren't actually sprited yet, so let's just quickly make a sprite for them. All right, so I got them all. Make sure, just thumb through them, and over here, make sure that the width and height are both 16. And that way you know that they're all, mapped properly. And yeah, so we have NPC sim 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 over here. So you can hit apply, close this out, go to smoke puffs, and same thing, make sure that it's default particle, go to texture sheet animation, sprites, add like 5, 6 of them, right? Then type in NPC sim, copy this so that I can just paste it in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we need to add one more, make it 5. Sweet. So this one is going to be a little bit different. Let me put this out for now just so we can see it better. So it's doing the background. Okay, yeah, it should be sprites default, not particles default. So these are going a little bit too slow and they're lasting a little bit too long. Actually, maybe 5 is good. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, so we want the lifetime to be something like a random between 0.6 and 1.2. Yeah, that gives it a little bit of randomness. And then make the speed also a random between 3 and 6. Great. So that's looking good. Now, if we put this under this, then we need to make this burst as well. Mission, so instead of overtime, we'll make it 0. Make sure it's not looping. And we're gonna say a count of 5. And let's set this duration back to 1 just so we can see. So it's not spawning any smoke puffs right now. Yeah, we just had to hit restart there one more time. We set the duration to 2. And set this one's duration to 2. There we go. Yeah. So that looks like a cave story explosion to me. And just to add a little bit more randomness, we can even set this count into a random between, say, 4 and 8. So explosion particles, now we're just going to reset the position on this and drag it into particles, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to the object pool manager and we're going to first duplicate this array element, particle surface hit, and name it to particle explosion and put in the explosion particles. And let's say there's like 4 of them. And then we're going to duplicate polar star 1 and name it into projectile missile 1. And we're going to add the missile right there. Okay, so let's actually get around to coding the missile. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to make a couple light changes into projectile. And these are just going to proof it so that anything that inherits from it is going to be able to change up the system like as it pleases. So we already have these publics. What we're going to do is we're going to change these, the player, direction, time, change these into protected. That way they're still private, but if something inherits from the from projectile, it'll still be able to access them. So it's like, yeah, it's like still private, but since we're going to make a missile script that inherits from projectile, it'll still be able to access those values. Same thing we're going to do with awake. We're going to change this to a protected virtual void. Now that virtual keyword just means that we're going to later be able to override it. Change this also to a protected. I don't know why that was public before. Update, we're going to make that, oops, we're going to make this a protected virtual void. And die, we're also going to make this a protected virtual void. I don't think there was any reason for die to be public before, was there? I don't believe so. And of course, same thing with the last one. See if there are any errors just to make sure that nothing went wrong. Okay, we're clean. Let's actually make the missile script. So we're gonna go into scripts, guns, and we're gonna create a new C# script and call it missile. Open this up, make it derive from projectile like we were talking about. And now what we're gonna do is, so first of all, we're gonna have a public float acceleration, okay? And then we're gonna have a public override of awake. Or no, wait, no, it's a protected, I tricked myself there. Protected override of, we're gonna override a lot of these. So we're gonna override awake, protected override of on enable for sure. Protected override of die. And protected override of update. I don't think we need to override check for collisions. Yeah, so these are just overrides, so that just means we can run the base, so whatever happens in projectile, and then do our own missile-like things on top of it. But we don't have to. I mean, we might delete some of these. We might delete some of these if we want to do a completely new thing and just not run whatever the base does. But yeah, okay. So I'm going to have to go over some math here really quick. Basically because missiles in Cave Story, they accelerate over time, right? They start off slower than they do at the end of their, little distance. So if you ever took high school physics, what we know about the missile is we know the initial velocity, we know, because we're going to set that, we know the acceleration because we're going to set that, and we know the distance it's gonna go. So what we have to figure out is the time that the whole thing is gonna take. But basically how this is gonna apply in for our missile is we're gonna set our max time based on this math, okay? So we're gonna say max time is equal to, and following the quadratic equation here, negative speed plus mathf dot square root speed times speed, which is basically just, speed squared, plus 2 times acceleration times range, divided by acceleration, which is our mangled equation to figure out how much time this should take. It has a square root, so it's not performant, but that's okay because it only runs once in the awake. And if you are looking at this and completely blanking, that's okay because it's just complicated physics and it's honestly not going to affect us the rest of the time. It's just going to let us use acceleration and make our missile go fast. Let's look at on enable. So spawn muzzle flash, that's right. Direction, time equals max time. So we can actually take out on enable because we don't actually need to override that. I think everything in there is perfectly fine. Die is going to be a little bit different because in the base, what happens is die, if it doesn't hit a surface, then it spawns in this muzzle flash, right? And then it sets the game object to false. So what we actually want to do is, we still want to set game object dot set active to false, but we want to spawn the explosion no matter what. So we're going to say, spawn from pool, same thing, except particle explosion. And then in update, all we really have to do here is we're still going to call base.update because, what even is an update? Update just has, time, subtracting time to delta time, the transform.position, adding the direction times speed times time to delta time, and if time is less than 0, then it dies, and it's checking for collisions. So we still want to do all that, but what we also want to do is make speed plus equal acceleration times time dot delta time, which is just, how acceleration works in physics, right? You add acceleration times the time to speed, or times the delta time to speed. Let's give it an missile script. And so hittable mask, we're gonna set that to obstacles and enemies like usual. The first level of the missile, if I'm not mistaken, deals 6 damage. I might be wrong. I'll look it up on the wiki later. Speed and range and acceleration. So the range, I'm pretty sure, is 10 because I think it goes 1 screen's worth. And the speed, we're going to have to fudge with those numbers, but for now, let's set the initial speed to 5 and acceleration to 15 and see what that looks like. Oh, I didn't actually do anything with it. So let me apply this, and we can delete that, and go to guns, missile launcher, and set the shootable prefab tag to projectile. Spelled that wrong. Projectile missile 1. Make sure that that's right. Projectile missile 1. Yeah. And for the player, let me just only give him the guns that he needs right now. So I'll just give him 2 guns for now, Polar Star and missile launcher. Okay. So now if we play, let's see what happens. We open up the missile launcher, shoot. Boom. Look at that. Oh, now there's some errors going on though. See, because the acceleration isn't actually getting reset. So what we have to do, yeah, see, now it's just going too fast for the screen to even handle. Okay, so what we have to do now is we have to go back to the missile. And remember when I said that we're not going to use onEnable? I was actually lying, like straight through my teeth. So we're going to use protected override void onEnable. And we're still going to call based on onEnable, but the other thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that speed is equal to whatever speed was at the beginning. So we're gonna reset it. So we're gonna say private, let's say initial speed, and we're gonna put that, or that's not a fair, put that as a float, and put that over here, and say initial speed is whatever speed is on awake, okay? And on enable, we're going to set speed back to initial speed. Simple. Okay, so now if we play the game, we take our missile launcher, and if we shoot it, goes, starts off slow, explodes, boom. Tight. The only weird thing is, even after we shoot a missile, it still keeps looping, and that's probably because we forgot to set the explosion particle to not loop. And smoke puffs, also, we want to set that to not loop. And the other thing is, we want to go into explosion particles and make sure that this has poolable particle system under it. We don't have to do that for its child because the child is like considered a child of the parent particle system. So yeah, now if we shoot, boom, shoot, boom, shoot, boom. It's working phenomenally. And based on like the tag system we set up last episode, it was really easy to set up. We didn't have to wonder about like how the, explosion is going to spawn. We didn't have to instantiate it. No, the object pooler just handles everything. Yeah. So there is one more thing. Oh, it kills the bat in one hit. That's funny. So there is one more thing we can do for the missile, and that's that in the game, the missiles have like the little jetpack particles coming off of it, kind of. So let's do that really quickly. I think the jetpack particles, are they under carrot? Let me check. Yeah, they're right here. So I'm going to quickly make some sprites for these. Make sure that these are all 8x8. Okay, here we have carrot 15, 16, wait, 15, 16, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. That's a little strange numbering, but whatever. Unity's weird. Then we're gonna go to the missile, pull this out over here again, and let's give it particle system. So same as before, we're gonna want the render mode, or the material to be sprites default, right? And make it no shape, velocity over lifetime. Let's make it, put it on a 1 on the X, which is good. And emission, maybe 10, maybe 5, or 10 is good actually. Let's go ahead and texture sheet animation, sprites. Sweet. So let's make the lifetime like 0.1 or 0.5. Speed 0, yeah. Velocity, let's actually make that 5. How about 10? Okay, so these are actually too big, looks like. So let's make the size, where's size? Start size, let's make that like 0.5. That looks like it should be the right. Let's actually change the velocity to none so we can see the pixels match up. Okay, good. Yeah, that looks like it's the right size. We also have to make, since the missiles are going to be moving, we're gonna want, excuse me, we're gonna want the simulation space to be world. Change the velocity over lifetime to be like 5. It should be fine. So right now it looks like it's coming out of the center a bit, but when the missile's moving, like it won't look like that because we set it to world space. So yeah. Now we can apply. Wait, one more thing. Make sure that this particle right here is on, since it's a sprite, it should be on the foreground layer. Yeah, that way it doesn't like get trapped behind, like the background, right? I think we have to do that for the explosion too. Make sure that this is on, under sorting layer, make sure that this is on foreground, and the smoke puffs also make sure that this is on foreground, and maybe give it 1 so that it shows up above the explosion. Okay, let's close that. Wait, no, I'm stupid. Make the explosion 1 and make the smoke puffs 0 because we want the explosion to happen over that. Okay. So now if we play, come up here, take our missile, shoot it. It has a little thing going out behind it, and then it explodes. And another thing you'll notice is that since our missile only has 1, that's actually perfect because missiles only allow 1 on screen at a time. So even if I hit the shoot button while 1 missile is out, it won't let me, do that missile. Let me take this, change it to like 3. I feel like that was still going too fast. Maybe even like 2. Okay, so we play it. Sweet. That missile looks so sick. And even if we hit, obstacles, explodes, and it hits the bat, insta-kills it. So there's our missile launcher. It's looking phenomenal. Looking great. Ooh. Uh-oh. That's not good. I think the missile itself needs to be on the right sprite layer. Put this on foreground. Yeah, but other than that, the missile's great. It's looking great. So I guess that's the missile launcher. I mean, it was a lot easier than I expected to make this missile. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time with the fireball, which is going to be a little bit more complicated actually, because the fireball has weird physics, even weirder than this missile, because it like rolls around and stuff. But yeah, I'll see you guys next time when I make the fireball. See ya.